one morning we were heading to a class and we were taking the subway. He's gonna kill me for saying this, but he started wrapping his hands on the subway on the way to class, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Well, I don't want to be late, and we're running late. I want to be prepared as soon as we get in." And
welcome to another episode of Kit and the Brit. I'm your host, Kit Yeung, and everyone's favorite Brit, Sean Hinds. And today we have a very special guest. This person needs a grand introduction. She's the queen of Southpaw Stitches, the head Muay Thai coach of King's Combat Elmhurst, and the mother to Xander. Without further ado, Jessica Yeung. Welcome, Jessica.
hi.
Right. I mean, I know so many people on the East Coast Muay Thai scene know you, but give us a little introduction of yourself.
My name is Jess Ng. Born and raised in Queens, New York. I am now the head instructor at King's Combat Elmhurst. I co-founded Southpaw Stitches. I co-founded the Fight Collective, which we recently launched our debut event a few months ago in March of 2025. And, I'm just rolling with the punches.
Ooh, just all around badass, right, Sean?
Yeah, very much so.
Sean, how long have you known Jessica?
2000.
2011?
Yeah.
No, 2011?
11,
maybe?
12 maybe.
And let me guess, you also trained with her at some point.
At Seaton,
Yeah.
That's how we started. I met him on the mats.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Do you have a funny story of how you met Sean?
I've seen him fight before, right? I didn't know he was joining Sitan. And then we were just training, we were warming up, and he comes in. And he was actually friends with my friend Roseanne Choi.
Yeah.
She
same
was
thing.
a previous amateur fighter also at that time. And they were friends from the Watt, I think.
Yeah, what?
So I never met Sean in person or was introduced to him. And then he just looks at me and Rosie, he's like, same. And I'm like,
wow, Sean.
I'm like, who's this guy? I'm like, okay. But the environment and the vibes at that time,
Yeah.
that was really much like our culture at Sitan anyway. So
Yeah.
it
Oh,
wasn't
wow.
anything offensive. I just thought it was really funny. He's like,
Yeah,
same.
same.
I was like, meanwhile, she's like a head taller than me. We're like two color skin shades different. She's Korean.
Yeah.
It was just so funny.
Yeah. Do you remember that, Sean?
Yeah, I remember
So
that.
he called us-
They've been same ever since.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Rosie and I have been same too.
And it's funny, even at the event you did the other day, it was the first time I've seen Rosie in
10 years.
over 10 years.
Oh, wow.
So it's the first time I've seen the both of them in the same place at the same time. I was like, oh, look at this.
Yeah.
Same.
Same,
Exactly.
yeah.
And I met Jessica a long time ago, like over 10, 15 years ago. We just had the same circle of friends and we'd
Yeah.
always be at the same shows. I'd play Mahjong at your house.
You did.
I'd steal your money all the time.
Yeah. I mean, surprise. I don't know what kind of Jesus-loving hustler he is.
No, he's good.
But
He hustles on the pool
when
table
he's
as well
on the
too, you know.
table with Mahjong, he was cleaning house.
Anything with a table.
At my house.
Pool table as well.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But the first time I met you was at a 7 a.m. class at Camp Undefeated.
Okay, undefeated.
And
Wow.
because I worked at Midtown at that time,
Yes.
and Ralph and I had just started dating. And he's
Yes.
like, "Oh, check out this gym, it's Camp Undefeated." It's like,
Yes.
and then I pop in before I go into the office, and
Yes.
you're just like the only one always. He's always on time. He's always early, and he's just like warming up,
Not,
And,
not
people didn't
lately.
even
He's late
come.
today.
Oh, yeah.
So that was funny. That was the first time I met you. And then we found out that I have older cousins that are around your age, and you guys ran in the same circle back in your
Yes.
gangster days.
Yes,
Gangster circles. Huh?
You
but-
guys don't know Kip.
but Camp
Back in the
Undefeated
days.
was the best. Like, we could probably do a whole episode on Camp Undefeated.
I
Oh my
actually
God.
taught there for a while too.
You did?
I taught
I
there
bet you
after Aaron left.
Oh, yeah?
I taught there for about maybe 4 months.
I mean, it was honestly the douchiest name. Camp
Oh,
Undefeated.
But also the vibes were like, I walked in there, I'm like,
You must have been
yo,
the only
it's
girl
a
in there.
frat house.
It is a
Like
frat house.
I never saw a girl in
like
that place.
white collar frat house.
Yes,
And
it
I was like,
was.
and there's no surprise there was no women there. You know,
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, I'm
There
not
was no
joining here. I'm
yes.
like, I'm staying at Fight House, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
true because although I met so many good friends and the people there weren't
Yeah.
douchey,
Yeah, no.
just the name was douchey. And every time we would go to a fight and one of us would lose, the whole crowd would be, I guess they're not undefeated anymore. It was just so easy
was
to
too
make fun of.
easy.
And we would all have our heads down because we're like, that is true, you know? Like you can't be kept undefeated if your guys keep losing at the fight. So we
And
were
getting defeated.
yes, exactly. So but we can do a whole nother
Yeah.
episode where I get some of the old camp undefeated guys to come
Yeah.
because a lot of them have moved on to other gyms when the place closed down.
Yeah.
And it was such a fun story of how like I met our business partner.
Funny enough,
Jen.
we have one guy that signed up for the Midtown gym that used to go to Camp
Camp
Undefeated.
Undefeated.
Yeah, yeah.
It's only
He
a few
does his
blocks
jiu-jitsu.
away. It's the
Yeah.
same
I'm
neighborhood.
gonna pull up a picture of Camp Defeated in like 2010 or wherever,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna get some of the guests to come on one day. But your husband used to go there, Ralph.
Yeah.
I heard some rumors, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but and you can tell the real story. But the rumor that we always hear is that Ralph was on the train and he had his boxing gloves on the outside of his book bag. Sean, how do we feel about people that wear their boxing
Yeah.
gloves on the outside of their
Real
book bag?
pretentious.
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 Yeah.
And a female and a girl saw him, and she was your friend. And because you also started doing Muay Thai, went up to him and said, "Oh, I have this friend that does Muay Thai." Chatted with him and got his number for you. Is that true?
Yes and no.
Okay, tell us
So
the real story.
Those are two stories rolled into one.
Okay.
I mean, speaking of
The boxing
the
gloves. on
boxing
outside.
gloves and all
How
that
do you feel
stuff.
about that? Yeah.
Oh no,
No.
like level douche, right? But he didn't do that.
Okay.
He didn't have his boxing gloves or shin guards or anything like in his. But one morning we were heading to a class and we were taking the subway. He's gonna kill me for saying this, but he started wrapping his hands on the subway on the way to class, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "What are you doing?"
She's
He's like, "Well, I don't want to be late, and we're running late. You know, I want to be prepared as soon as we get in, and I don't want to miss the warm up." I was like, "But you still don't do that."
Yes, yes.
I'm like, "Do not do that." And like, I didn't know him that well at the time, so I'm like, "Oh my god, please stop." But anyway, that was the story.
How many years ago was that then?
Oh my god, that was 2008.
So speaking of bad etiquette, gloves on the outside of your book bag. I hope I don't
Or
offend
MMA
anybody.
gloves. I
don't wanna
always see it
offend
in
anybody,
Midtown.
but yes,
It's
but I don't want to
it's
offend
like
anybody.
a very
You know?
Midtown kind of thing. I'm like, I know your MMA gloves fit in your bag.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
But do we think that's gonna ward off anybody from like messing with you on the train? Maybe it's like,
supposed
you
to.
know.
No, it
kinda
doesn't.
like-
It's
Like a
just
badge,
kind of like,
almost like wearing the badge.
yeah.
Okay, no wrapping hands on the subway.
No.
No. Okay. How about this? Having your spandex shorts show
No.
outside your Muay Thai shorts.
No.
What do you think?
No. You wear compression shorts,
Yes.
but at the right length.
they can't come
It
past
should
it.
not be above the knee.
Why?
No?
Why?
Because why do you need it compressed down to your knees?
But
Why do you need your thighs
maybe,
compressed,
maybe
Sean?
your thighs need some compression. They're a bit too big. But I mean, you're wearing shorts over the top, right?
Yeah, so you
Okay, so
wear the trunks
whatever
that
floats your
are
boat.
like 3 inches below long. And that's it.
Okay, is it acceptable your first few classes to wear basketball shorts
No.
to Muay Thai? But when I first started, I was shy. I didn't really know about Muay Thai shorts. And
I
when I
wore,
got to the gym, I was really shy because I have little skinny chicken legs and I didn't want to wear those tight shorts. So I wore basketball shorts first few times. And it took me almost a year before someone convinced me, like, hey, maybe you should wear Muay Thai shorts because you're doing Muay Thai. First time I put it on, it really showed my chicken legs. But the first kick I threw, I was like, wow, like the freedom that Muay Thai shorts give
Yeah.
you. Like my basketball shorts would probably pass my knees, and I don't know what I was doing kicking. But how soon should someone get Muay Thai shorts if they're scared of wearing them?
Day one.
Really?
Well, do you wear sweatpants to the beach? No, you wear your bathing suit. You wear your swimming trunks. Are you gonna swim in sweatpants?
Some people might.
What about you, Sean? As a coach, how long before someone should buy their first pair of Muay Thai shorts if they're a little conscious about their chicken legs, like such as myself?
No, I mean if you're gonna just like buying equipment. If you feel like you're gonna get into the sport and you like it, then make the purchase, but start with a pair of shorts first before you go into gloves and shin guards and everything else.
All right. Another thing, I guess. How do we feel about not your traditional hand wraps, but those slip-on ones where like you can just like slip them in and like it
Yeah, I mean,
kind of
if you're
saves the
just
time,
like,
you know?
if you're doing it for fitness, which is, there's nothing wrong with it, right? Then wear it. I don't think there's a problem with it, because in the beginning, it takes people a while to learn how to
Yeah.
wrap their hands and all that stuff. It's almost like a, you know, you make your morning coffee or whatever. It's a ritual, right? It's like a habit. So like when you start, you know, you're seasoned enough, you know, like you just wrap your hands, you get ready or whatever. And in the beginning, if you're you're already figuring out how to stand, how to have your hands, and there's so much to think about, I don't think there's anything wrong with just doing the slip-ons, especially like you have Grit nowadays, you have that Rumble boxing place, you know, you have, you know, it's,
Why do you make that face when you talk about Rumble like that?
I mean, you can Google I mean, the parent company is being investigated by the SEC,
That's
you
true.
know, so like, you know, look up the CEO of that parent
Yeah.
company.
I'm not gonna ask Sean because he doesn't wear a cup when he spars. But
Uh-huh.
what do you think about cups outside your shorts? Like some guys put the cups outside their shorts. Like, what do you think about that, Jess?
Would you want me to wear my sports bra outside my clothes?
I mean, as long as you're wearing it, as long as you're wearing it,
but
right?
that's not the right layering, right? That's weird.
Yeah, there's so much Muay Thai etiquette. What about those slip-on cloth shin guards? What do you guys think about that? As opposed to like a
Nah,
normal
I-
pair.
nah.
Well,
like
I don't
those,
know why
like-
they make it actually.
No, they
But
make
I
they
talk
made
about
it
normal stuff, right? Like,
more for the
like-
competitions and the
But
tournaments.
then they actually don't work.
But that's the whole purpose. As long as you, I guess,
I guess
showing
it's
that
for the
you're
commission
wearing
to check the
some kind of
box.
shin protection. Like you said, half of them you
It
do
shifts.
two
It
kicks and it
doesn't
ends up
stay.
by your ankles, and then you're just kicking bare shin at that point.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And nowadays when we spar, like etiquette is like you don't see as many people wear helmets. Like, why is that, right? Like,
Well, hasn't it been like there's been studies that like it doesn't really help?
With
Or it's like,
yeah, I think that's
don't
with the boxing, with the amateur
yeah,
boxing.
you know what, yeah. But also nowadays, I feel like within like our subculture, a lot of the leadership from the gyms, they stress like controlled sparring. You know what I
Yes,
mean?
yes.
It's not just like bunch of like frat dudes just trying to knock each other out.
It's not like
Like
it's not
the
like
other
Seatown back
day
in the days.
at the new gym, right? I heard, we're just body boxing, but I heard two teenage boys with somewhat, you know, like martial arts experience. They said to each other, like, okay, let's go hard, right? And I was like, I just made an announcement. I'm like, we're not going 100%. Just to be clear, go with, you know, the energy of your partner, but also be respectful and, you know, go 30%, 50%. But just because you're not going 100% doesn't mean you go slow or, you know, like sloppy either,
Yeah.
you know? So I think stuff like that really comes from the leadership of the gym.
Speaking about sparring, we had a great interview and podcast with Joel and Sean, and they were just reminiscing about those Seaton days.
Mm.
Since you were in there, was the sparring really hard, like they were talking about?
Oh, yeah. I was like thrown into like the lion's den.
Yeah.
Oh, I walked in like, I'm really petite now still, but
Nah,
like
nah.
back then,
She good.
you know, I walked in like 95 pounds, you know,
Did they
skin
make you
and
spar the
bones.
kids mostly? Is that why?
Actually, I wish, but there was no kids classes back then.
Oh,
There was no
okay.
kids Muay Thai back then.
Gotcha.
But very funny.
Yeah.
But no, I was like thrown into the lion's den, really.
Oh, wow.
But it really made me the person I am today. Like, you know, it helped me in so many aspects of life. And like, yeah, I mean, it changed the trajectory of my whole life. Being there,
mean-
like finding that gym specifically, not just like the sport.
I'd hate to admit it on camera and don't blush, but I would say you're one of the pioneers of like women's Muay Thai on the East Coast
Mm.
because everyone would look up to you and say, "Oh my God, look at that small little girl just holding her own and just beating up all the other girls."
I
on the
think
East
that's
Coast."
why. I mean, I wouldn't call myself a pioneer whatsoever. I would really give it to so many other women, you know, that
Yeah.
have like these amazing titles and, you know, like we really have had the honor to see them like, you know, soar in like their skill and, you know, like them as like fighters. But for me, I think it was really like I was always the underdog, and it was just so unexpected, right? And like in a lot of things that I do, in the work that I do, it's really to like, push people to like defy those social norms. You know what I mean? And like just like be their true selves, but also like be able to just show what they're capable of, instead of being in the box of what society has like put us in, right? So for me, it's like I was always the underdog, like my weight class didn't even exist in the amateur level, right, in the United States. So yeah, it was just always unexpected that I would like win, I
Right,
guess,
right.
or like I would win by unanimous decision, or like whatever. Like it was
No,
just
but I thought,
unexpected what people would like
I think,
perceive of me.
yeah, but I think you won because like you put the time and the effort into what needed to be done in order for you to win. You know, like all
Yeah.
those Saturdays sparring with all those huge people, just I think put you at such a bigger advantage that when you got to that same size as you were, it didn't, it wasn't so much pressure, it wasn't so much
Yeah.
overwhelming. You know,
Yeah. That's true. That's true. I do have to say, like, I might not be the strongest, and I might not be like the most skilled, or I don't have beautiful form, but I always put in the work, no
Yeah.
matter what. I always
Also,
put
not the
in the work.
smartest either.
Yeah, not the smartest to you, but at least I'm smarter than you.
That
Yeah.
could be true.
Yeah.
So was it hard to get fights?
Yeah, it was.
Because they didn't have that weight class for you. So
Yeah, so
describe the process. Did you
the
have to gain weight to fight?
I would have to gain weight, but my body would never gain weight. Like it was kind of like ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, I think the lowest was like, 105. Okay. So we'll just sign up at 105,
Oh, wow.
and then I didn't really have to like cut weight, but I put in the work, for like my teammates that would have to, go through the process of cutting weight and all that stuff. Like for me, I didn't have to do that, but I had to put in even more work
Yeah,
into the
that's true.
training. Like I put in more work into the training because I was not naturally like athletic, I'm not naturally coordinated or anything like that, or with strength, but I put in the work. Like even like I would work my 9 to 5:30, and then I would go there, start at 7, and I wouldn't leave till 9:30. Like if Aziz said like finish, your 2 hours of training, and then you got to finish with like this whole SNC like program, I would do it.
Wow. Yeah,
I was always the last one to leave.
that's amazing.
But that's because in my head, I'm like, if I don't do it, then I'm not going to be prepared.
That's great. Yeah. So from that hard work, tell us a little bit about some of the accomplishments that I know you went to IFMA and you've had all sorts of titles. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So in the beginning, I was only doing like local tournaments and local fights. And then when I think my 14th fight, I fought at IFMA in Malaysia. And when I was there, I'm like, I felt like that was my first true fight. Like that was my first real fight, because the competition was just, nothing I've ever experienced or even seen with my own eyes before. My first time to Thailand before I fought my first fight, it was like, you go to like Patong, or like you go to like, Bangla Stadium and stuff. Okay, you see foreigners fighting, like local Thais and stuff. But at IFMA, everyone there was just at a whole nother level. And it was just like, it was a dogfight. Like no matter what, like everyone fought, like they had nothing to lose. Right. And it was just incredible to watch, and when I left there, I'm like, that was my first real fight.
Wow.
No matter how hard, of fights I had like before, all like 14 before. And I had, and before, after that, I was like, oh, I lost. I beat myself up for losing. But I lost to like number 2 in the world at 45 kilos at that time. And she was from Belarus. And like, she didn't stop me. She didn't like, I didn't look like I was like getting beat up all 3 rounds either. Like I held my own. But when I went in there, I didn't know the IFMA rules well enough. If I did, I think I could have really went toe to toe. But that was all an experience, and I think that changed like my whole like outlook on like the fight scene for Muay Thai, like internationally.
Wow. Yeah.
You
And
can't explain it unless you're actually there.
gotcha.
Yeah. I know for me too, the big difference of fighting in the US to fighting outside the US.
Mm-hmm.
Where the US, you might be a little bit complacent in the first round. You go outside, it's just like they come in ready to like put you to sleep.
Yeah,
You know?
especially if you had the American flag on your back, forget it.
Wow.
Forget it. Even like at that time, that in Malaysia or whatever, it was like, once I had the American flag on me, it was just like these big dudes from these Eastern European countries. They would just cut me online. They like did it. They like what. And then, but then if we're just getting breakfast and we're whatever, and I had my regular clothes on, we're like, oh, are you Team Taiwan? Oh, are you from Hong Kong? And they were so nice.
Yeah.
And then as soon as we like go for like doctor checkups, and when I had like the USA on my back, it was like, they literally just like shoved me to the side.
Wow.
I'm like,
What was the
"Okay."
hostility
I
about
don't
back
know.
then?
I
you
don't know.
know?
I
Yeah.
mean, we're Americans.
That's true. Tell us a bit about after your fight career, what you've been working on and stuff.
Oh man. Well.
I mean, you can see that I'm rocking this Southpaw Stitches, one of my
Yeah.
favorite T-shirts and stuff.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit
Yeah.
about Southpaw Stitches.
Well, it got its name from, me literally embroidering and stitching on my kitchen table, like, Muay Thai shorts or like cornament jackets and stuff back in the day, like, in like 2012 or whatever. Back when, if people needed like customized Muay Thai shorts or cornament jackets or like walkout capes or whatever, they had to
I think I have a pair of shorts
email.
that you helped me with.
Yeah. Like you had to email local factory in Bangkok, and then they make it, and then they like ship it, and all that stuff. This was before like e-commerce,
Gotcha.
right? If you think back to like 2008, 2010, unless you had a friend that went to Thailand and then get it, So then I was doing that, and I was just stitching, and it's an archaic form of like embroidery technique that I learned in college actually. So I was like, oh, this is easy, but it is very time consuming. So anyway, that's how it got its name. During the pandemic, right before I came back from Thailand, I did a bunch of like designs and shorts and stuff. And pandemic hit, I used the raw materials to make masks, etc. And then I'm like, I've been in the fashion industry for 20 years now, right? Even though I look like 18. But, I specialize in engineering, like undergarments. So whenever I would stand off with my opponents, a lot of times I'm like, oh, I designed that. Oh, I designed that,
Oh, yeah?
But obviously I don't own the designs because I designed for, fashion brands. So I'm like, okay, what do I do? I was like, you know what? Like naturally, I was like, why don't I just make something that actually I think is comfortable for training? Because we're kicking and kneeing and clinching. That's different from wearing compression shorts that I run in and jog in or
Sure.
bike in, right? So I'm like, let me just make something. And then I did it and I launched it thinking that it would just be a secondary item in the line before I like launched with Muay Thai shorts, right? And yeah, it was just a hit unexpectedly. So yeah, and then we just started being kind of more recognized by like women practitioners and people with like daughters and teenage daughters, whatever, in the sport. And then, with AFL Warriors Caught Freedom, we were able to kind of like create these gift packages for the women fighters, for the girl fighters on the card, getting their feedback. And yeah, we just kind of built our, clientele from there within the circle. And since then we've gotten like, orders from like Singapore, Thailand,
Wow,
Canada.
it's
So
amazing.
it's good. It's a hard business, product business, as you know, but
And now
yeah.
it's more of a power brand because I have T-shirts and jerseys
Yeah,
from
yeah.
Southpaw Stitches, right?
Yeah. And just because we launched and we succeeded in like, the sports bras and the compression shorts for women doesn't necessarily mean it's a women's only apparel brand, right? Whenever you have something that highlights things for like women, people automatically puts it in a box. Like, oh, it's a women's brand,
Right.
but you don't question the same when it's any other brand that has like apparel for men and accessories for men, and then you throw something in pink for women,
So you're gonna design some of those spandex that come below the shorts
I
for men?
don't. I tried it in the beginning, but it didn't sell well because men don't invest in things like that.
They want it below
Men
the shorts,
invest
right?
in things on the outside that make them look like crisp and clean and nice or whatever. But
Right, so-
undergarments, men don't care.
So
How
the,
about,
the
How many
extra
men?
length is what
How
they
many
want.
men in the fitting rooms or in the changing rooms that you're in at the gym and they all have like crusty old saggy underwear.
I'm not
Like I
looking
would
at
say
that.
9 out of 10.
I'm not looking at no one's
Sean,
underwear.
No.
Sean,
I'm
is
not
al-
looking.
Sean is always naked in the locker room most of the time.
Whoa.
Yeah. And he sees me in my Southpaw Stitches sports bra all the time.
Yeah,
Like, you know,
yeah,
like I have mine.
And he's jealous, I
My
bet.
my favorite one is the lavender.
You don't,
Oh,
you,
nice,
you don't
nice,
make my
nice.
size. That's why I'm
Yeah.
jealous.
I do make your size now. We go up to double extra large.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes. That's
Mhm.
super interesting. So tell the audience where they can get some of this on the website, on Instagram.
Southpawstitches.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, I love the apparel brand and we'd love to see it grow because Sean and I talk a lot about like supporting local businesses that are going to drive the Muay Thai community
Yeah.
and to be able to, you know, create revenue where then we pour it back into sponsoring fighters and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's something great that you're doing.
Yeah. Thanks. Mhm.
And then Sean and I attended your inaugural Fight Collective event. It was
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Give it up for it was you know, it was wonderful to see so many women and men packed in a room and to hear their amazing stories of their Muay Thai journeys
Yeah.
from a female perspective. So tell us a little bit more about the event and what you hope to accomplish with the Fight Collective.
So I started the Fight Collective with Watt and Shribuang. Sorry, Watt, if I butchered your last name, but I'm gonna get it.
That's
So Watt of Rossum Treats. How about that? Watt
yes.
of Rossum Treats. If you haven't been there at her brick and mortar shop in Lower East Side in Manhattan, make sure you go.
We all love what.
Best
We all love what.
treats,
Yes.
best desserts ever. And Gemma Fleming, who is a photographer. So both of them and I, the three of us, we were on the Muay Thai circuit. We've been in the Muay Thai circuit, ex-fighters, and now we've branched out into our own, respective industries, but still connected to the Muay Thai scene and the combat sports scene. She's in media. Gemma's in media. She is probably, in my opinion, one of the top visual storytellers right now in the United States in the combat scene. And then Watt, she is in culinary, after her fight career. And for me, I'm in apparel and also now running gym. So when people train Muay Thai for fitness, right, I think it's a wonderful thing to explore, martial arts and Muay Thai in the fitness space, but also they think you have to be a fighter and you don't have to be a fighter. And even if you are a fighter, the end goal isn't just you have to be a professional fighter and you have to get that WBC belt, because that's what I used to think, right? It was just one way or like no way. But it doesn't have to be that. There is a possibility for you to get your expertise and get your training, and then you can be, like you could run your nonprofit like Raquel Harris with Ring of Hope. You can be like Watt and have your brick and mortar, like, culinary business. You can be a photographer and media leader like Gemma. You can do apparel. You could do so many things that's possible with your experience in Muay Thai or in combat sports.
Right. I mean, it's amazing because Sean and I own a few gyms, and sometimes the class would be 50% female, 50% male. And a long time ago, even when you were training, like, what do you think the percentages were back in the day?
Oh, I don't know the exact percentage, but it's I don't know, sometimes it would be like 2, 3, 4.
Exactly. Right, Sean?
And then whenever we would have 5 or 6, it was like really telling of the culture of that gym specifically.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean, for C-Time, you generally would get fewer girls in each class during the course of the week. I think more of the city gyms had a little bit more better mixture of male,
Yeah.
female.
Yeah.
And a lot of parents and like fathers brought their kids too, and that says a lot about, how men want to kind of, raise and give exposure to their daughters of like what's out there. There are, pioneers, and there are, other like, representatives in the sport of combat sports that are women.
Right. So how does it feel to transition from active fighter to now coaching? Like, how's that transition been for you?
I always question if I was ready to coach, you know what I mean? But I'm really enjoying it now. Like I would say it took me about like 2 years to really get comfortable, like commanding a class and, like teaching with a strategy and also teaching orthodox that was a hard thing for my mind to switch because I'm so dominantly left-handed. I can't even hold my phone and talk with my right hand.
Right.
I feel like I'm just gonna drop it. Yeah, that took a while. So now I'm like finally comfortable, and also it's more like meaningful now, especially like now in Elmhurst, catering to like the surrounding neighborhoods and stuff, and really creating a space that we wish that we had, growing up in Corona and Jackson Heights and Elmhurst. So it's really nice to finally, kind of be back there.
Amazing, amazing. What I love is there's a viral image of you
What?
where you're in a mask and you have a sign that says,
Mm.
"Is it love our people like you love our food," or something like
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
And there's all these viral images of you at a lot of these rallies and protests
Yeah.
that went viral. Tell us a
Mhm.
little bit about that viral picture.
It was kind of crazy that it actually went viral. It was on
Yeah.
the first page of Reddit the
Yeah, it's
next
really
day,
cool.
and I
Yeah.
was like, and I had a mask on, so I didn't even want people to know who I was, because you had like Al Jazeera there, you had like MSNBC, you had Fox News, like
Yeah.
it was just like trucks lined up. But if you notice, nobody's really behind me because I was always just on the side, and I was kind of just like watching, and my friends were like organizing in the front and stuff. So I was really in the back where like the folks that were kind of just protecting the vicinity and just making sure everybody was okay. So I was really in the back, and I had my mask on and everything. So, but I don't know who outed me, like on Reddit,
Yeah.
and started tagging me. I'm like, I don't even go on Reddit. But it was taken by Mel D. Cole, who is a famous hip hop photographer,
Ooh.
and he shot me from like far away. Yeah, and also like the men in my family immigrated to this country from uh w- the Dominican Republic, my paternal grandfather by way of China, and then like my family from China here, they were all in the restaurant business in Corona and in the Bronx in the 70s, in 1976. And so the men in my family were always in the food business, and it was hard. It was really hard. Like my father having like his restaurant on East Tremont Ave in the 80s, right? And late 70s, like in the Bronx. And so it's kind of like, and even now it's like it was and you can look up the history of like MSG and all stuff demonizing.
Mm.
It just has this whole negative, evil connection to like Chinese food or whatever. But
Right.
you open Doritos, you eat Parmesan cheese, you go to
Yeah.
an Italian restaurant. Nobody questions like MSG, right?
Yeah.
And now when Asian food is trendy and popular
Yeah.
and all this stuff, when like I was always ostracized and made fun of and like bullied for my food in school,
Yeah.
my friends would be like, oh, take me to like shabu shabu. I was like, what? I was like, no, you go, you look, find a food blogger and like you go yourself.
Yeah.
And or like take me to dim sum, but like I don't want to eat that weird stuff. But then they're like they want to eat this trendy food or whatever, and then now you have like people that are not from like the Asian diaspora opening up food, opening up Chinese restaurants that are clean, and that's literally in their brand description. It's like clean and you're going to feel good after. You love our food and you love our culture, but we were literally hunted during COVID times, during the pandemic. And we're still being hunted now. And then, but now instead of us, you have like Latinos being hunted right now currently with this administration. So that message, that was received and understood worldwide from like Asian diaspora, and like we got messages from like Spain. I got messages from like the Chinatown in like, or the Lao community, in the Southeast Asian community in Paris, like Canada. It was like, yeah, it made a real big impact, that just little slogan,
That's
so.
great. That's amazing. So tell us about your new endeavor, King's Combat Elmhurst. How can people take classes? Where do they sign up? Things like that.
kingscombatelmhurst.com,
Mhm.
or find us on Instagram. Hopefully I'll open a TikTok account, but marketing goes a long way in the business, but also leadership goes a long way, right? So, I have a great staff for Muay Thai.
Staff. Me?
Like you?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm always hounding you for things.
Yes.
You just so hard to do.
I'm on the payroll too, right?
Yeah, Sean's on
I would
payroll,
love
yes.
to have Sean on the team.
I'm on the
Yes,
payroll.
yes.
But also shout out because, I needed to paint the
Yes.
gym because some of my partners thought the gym was painted, but it was only primed,
Yes.
right? And I was like, we have to paint the gym. They're like, no, it's already painted. I was like, it is not painted. And so I was painting at the gym, getting headaches from like the paint fumes because I would have to close the door sometimes because we'll have some knuckleheads outside, right?
True.
Sean generously offered to help me paint one morning, and he's such a pro.
Yes.
Such a pro.
So
It was
Sean,
awesome.
You can reach
So
me
thank
at
you.
SeanHinds.com.
yeah. So how do people hire you for painting, Sean? Yeah.
Sean did one day of painting,
Yeah.
actually 3 hours, in what like 4 of us did in like a day,
That's true.
a full day.
Yeah.
So
Because people don't know before Sean, before
Sean,
No,
Before
before
Sean.
Sean started coaching and being a gym owner, what did you do?
I was a carpenter.
A carpenter,
Yeah.
but also painting and everything.
I used to do everything.
but yeah, new gym. It was vacant during COVID. It was like kind of like a mess in there, and we just blew out the ceiling. We like cleaned it up. It's a proud project that we've
I
built
saw the
there.
pictures of what it looked like before, and it's like night and day when you walk into there.
Yeah, we walked in, drop ceiling, stains of water damage everywhere. I'm like, no one over 5'10" can train here. And then I was like, how are they gonna jump rope? Kit goes, there'll be no jump rope allowed. I'm like, you gonna run a gym and tell me I can't have people over 5'10" and
Listen,
also
I'm
no
5'7".
jump rope?
I don't care about jump rope. I'm 5'7".
I
I
was
can
like,
jump
no
rope.
way. And I'm like, can we just blow out the ceiling? They're like, And I'm like, let's just ask if we can blow out the ceiling. And of course,
Yes.
we were
Yeah.
able to open up the ceiling, give folks that are over 6 feet to be able to train at our gym, right?
And do you have any jump ropes at the gym?
Not yet. Because, our CFO's like, we
Yeah.
don't need jump ropes.
No,
right
it
now."
was an amazing experience working with Jessica because you know how
Yeah, she did all the work by the looks of things.
no, a lot of males, a lot of the gyms that I own with Sean and a few of the Kings folks, a lot of us are male.
How about all of them except one? Maggie.
Yes,
Okay,
Maggie.
shout out to Maggie.
Yeah, shout out to Maggie. She
'cause
puts the women's touch in it. That's
it's
why
not
when
the
you go to
women's touch, it's just logical.
I don't know
right?
about that,
It's
but it's the
just-
women's touch. I do have a funny story.
Yeah, what?
Regarding that. So Sean came up with this great idea. He said, "Why don't we put a feminine products dispenser in the women's bathroom?" And I looked at Sean. I said, "Wow, look at you! Like thinking about all our female members."
I know
So
where
one
this is
day,
going.
Sean and I went to the bathroom and we drilled it. We drilled it far away from the toilet.
Yeah.
And we
Like
had no
all the
clue,
way in the other
like all the way
corner.
in the other corner. And every a couple of weeks we go in there and check in the box to see if anything's in there because we were so excited. We thought it would just be full of feminine products and we'd be able
Use
to
feminine products.
and
that
then
they-
we'd be able to throw it out. And every week we went and we're like, damn, it's empty. Damn, it's empty. And one day, was it you or
It
was
was
someone
one of
else?
my students.
It was one of your students told us and it said, when you take out your feminine product, you're on the toilet and you're not gonna go like 3 feet
You're
down
not
to
gonna
like
walk
the
across
like
the.
you're not gonna just have your underwear and like across the toilet product. And we're like, oh, that makes sense. Why don't we drill it next to like the toilet so that they can do it? But yeah.
And then
that's
you know
true.
where they drilled it? Next to the toilet?
Where?
Like 2 feet up here.
Oh, no,
Okay, she couldn't reach it.
And I'm like,
just one step at a time. We're getting there.
We're in the right
and
position.
also,
We're in the
no
right
little
area.
trash bin to line it.
All right, but it was so wonderful to have you on this podcast. Will you promise to come back in a couple of months and give us an update on King's Combat Elmhurst, how the Fight Collective's doing? Hopefully, Southpaw Stitches takes off, and will you come back as another
Yeah, we're
guest?
trying to survive after this whole like tariff war thing, FYI.
Yes. Sean, what are your final departing words to Jessica?
Look forward to seeing you the next time.
Aww.
All right.
And I'm
Shout
glad.
out to Sean too. He's not a man of many words, but
No, this was a lot.
he's
for
an
me today.
awesome dude.
Yeah, I'm all right.
All right. Thank
That's
you.
why I like this girl.
Awesome. Okay.